this may be my final, will be my final state of the city. But let me just be clear. I am not anxious to leave. And if I could run again, I would. But a word of advice for those who seek to follow me. Be careful of what you promise. Be careful on how you criticize, because you haven't looked under the hood. But what I can say to the next mayor is, when I inherited a city of $160 million in the hole and an unfunded liability of $8.2 billion, I will hand to whoever the next mayor will be, instead of $160 million in a hole, we'll give you a surplus of nearly $420 million. Instead of an unfunded liability of $8.2 billion, we'll give you a pension system where the unfunded liability is less than $2.2 billion.
Good evening to you. I'm Tom Zisco. We're glad to have you with us. We begin with the city of Houston's next mayor. State Senator John Whitmire has been elected to lead the city after today's runoff election. Whitmire represented the city of Houston for 50 years through state government. 74-year-old defeated Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee to take control of the fourth largest city in America.
I think we can all agree on that we're broke.
In the red, upside down, underwater. You can call it whatever you want, but the city of Houston's bills are outstripping its revenue. So says Mayor John Whitmire in brutally honest fashion after looking beneath the hood of the city's finances post Sylvester Turner. I mentioned the former mayor because just a few months ago, the story he was telling was much different.
Instead of $160 million in a hole, we'll give you a surplus of nearly $420 million.
Clearly two versions of bookkeeping here, one a fantasy, the other a reality, which Mayor John Whitmire says will demand decisive and potentially unpopular measures.
I don't like a 5% cut now, but you have to make tough decisions. And the folks put me in this position to make tough decisions, and I'm going to do my job.
Panel Whitmire says all options are on the table, including clawing back sales tax revenue from Metro and tapping the coffers of the so-called tax increment reinvestment zones.
Yeah, I hate to think of myself as I told you so kind of person, but this has been obvious to anybody following the city's finances for well over a decade. The you-know-what would have hit the fan in the last administration had it not been for this incredible influx of federal dollars. That's why Sylvester was able to say that he left with a surplus, because that was leftover COVID and Harvey money. Look, the city made three decisions in the last, several decades that have brought us to this point. One is in the 1970s, we gave away half of our sales tax to Metro. Now, you can argue about how effective that's been. They spent $3 billion on light rail that is performing horribly. That money could have been better spent by the city of Houston. We've given away a couple $100 million of our money to the TERS. Some of that money's spent okay, a lot of it's not. Look at the silver line on Post Oak. And then the third thing is, Sylvester Turner made a decision when we had pension reform teed up that he was going to continue defined benefit plans indefinitely into the future. Private sector gave that up, decades ago. Those three things are what have the city in this financial condition. It's the reason that we underinvest in roads and water and everything that we do. And it's going to be a very tough problem to get out of.
Charles Blaine, you keep a close eye on City Hall. This is not a surprise to you.
No, and I'm going to say, because every mayor, when they're leaving, paints a rosy picture. In 2014, I looked at the budget that Parker put out in her budget statement. It said, I set the city on a stable financial path. And we know months later, pension was an issue, and Turner had to deal with that when he came in. But I'm going to echo a lot of what Bill said, because he's been saying it since I was born, pretty much. But, coming to the tax, we often talk about how difficult these past couple of years have been been for the firefighters, which is true, but it's been equally as difficult for the public. Cost of living has increased and services have not kept pace. And so why are we not looking at things prior to looking at money from the public, like changing pension plans for new employees, like immediately going after the Metro money, selling some of the city's artwork, because they have a lot of artwork at all of these different facilities. They should be looking at the waste, fraud, and abuse that's in the city and cutting there before they come to taxpayers, because we need to be shown a little bit of goodwill, because it's been hard for us as well.
Bill, real quickly before I go to Chow, it's not as if the city of Houston didn't have increased revenue year after year after year after year. Is that correct?
It is. Most recently, though, it's mostly been in the water department because we dramatically raised water rates, which has that system in pretty good shape. One thing that's confusing about the city is they're discrete funds. What John's talking about is a general fund, which is in bad shape.
I can say to Houstonians, I have given you my best. And I am proud, I am very proud of the city that I shall pass forward.
I think we can all agree on that we're broke.